Hello, beautiful co-creators of the new paradigm. I'm Wieteke Koolhof from Design for Awareness, and I'm here with Kendra Jonas.
Hi, Wieteke, good to see you.
Yay, Kendra, I'm so happy to see you again. So nice that you have time for this right now.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. I always have time for you.
Yay! You're a channeler and you wrote this book about it. And we decided to make some videos together on channeling and multidimensionality and the principles that we've learned or were inspired to embrace in our own lives through what we perceive we receive from our guides. For you, it has resulted into a book. I would love to hear more about that book. Can you share some details with us?
Sure, I'm happy to. Yeah, the book basically came through me.
Mm-hmm.
It happened from like I have these typical experiences that happen at night where I'm woken up. And this is pretty much how the book happened. I was journaling my life and the events that were happening to me with the abductions with the Greys and all this
Mm-hmm.
spiritual things that I was experiencing and journaling at the time. And so I had all these, my notes were spread out on my bed one day of what I was going to try to put into a book. And I was
Uh-huh.
basically about to give up because nothing made sense. I was
Okay.
just like struggling with everything. And so I called out to the universe. I'm like, I just don't know what I'm doing. I have a bunch of notes and no structure. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I know I'm kind of feeling pressed upon to write a book, but I didn't know where I was going.
Uh-huh.
So that night I have an experience and I'm woken up and I just hear a voice. I don't see anybody in my room or anything. I'm woken up to a voice that just wakes me up and says, you're going to want to write this down. And I get my little phone out because it has my notepad in it, and so I just start listening to this voice, and he says, "These are the seven principles of I am. This is very important information. This is going to be what makes up your whole book. In fact, these are going to be the chapters in your book." And he said, "When you wake up in the morning, you'll know exactly where your notes fit into this."
Oh,
And then
wow.
he just starts telling me like these seven principles. So I'll just read them to you what he said. And
Yes,
so these
please.
seven, okay, great. Um, so these are the seven principles of I am. I am pure conscious energy. I am whole. I am one. The third principle is I am not the ego. The fourth principle is I am multidimensional. The fifth one is I am timeless, infinite, and eternal. The sixth is I am creative, and the seventh is I am love. And so, as he's saying this, the chapters are, you are pure conscious energy, you are whole, you
Uh-huh.
are one. But really, these are the I ams that they're the energetic aspects of ourselves that never leave us or never change. So, even though we attach different I ams to ourself, like we say, I am afraid, or I am grateful, or I am wealthy, or whatever affirmation we want to label to ourselves, those are just temporary experiences.
Yeah.
But these seven principles, what I found is that they're the energetic aspects of our soul. They're permanent parts of us. They're who we are when we wipe the slate clean
Right.
and don't attach anything. So
Uh-huh.
that's what it kind of brings us to the zero point of who we are, and then we can work with that more. So, and I didn't know
Oh.
this at first. It was like given to me, and then I just started researching things and then putting together my own experiences, and I continue to have experiences while I'm putting together this book. So this was the foundation. And then as I start to write the book, that same voice that wakes me up in the night and gives these to me, he starts to come through as soon as I start to work on each chapter. And I realized, oh, he's writing the introduction of each principle as well. So I would just start hearing him. I would write kind of this introduction with each chapter, and it's about 4 or 5 paragraphs where it's his voice speaking. And I don't even know who he is.
I was just
Like
gonna
he
ask,
doesn't
like, who is the
he doesn't give
he?
me an I know. Yeah. He doesn't give me a name because I've tried to ask and it's like, well, is this God speaking? I mean, are you an ET? Who is this? And it's just the most loving, incredible voice
Uh-huh.
and with such wisdom and information, and it's the same thing that happened to me when I started to have contact with my guide, who I call Melody, is that she actually told me we don't have names. When you're dealing with the higher dimensional beings, they're in unity consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have this individual need to have a name. They can recognize one another through their energy and everything.
Yeah.
So um, I decided to call that voice the voice of creation because he sort of encompasses for me what all that is really is about. And it's
Yeah.
really about the message and not the messenger, is how I look at
Yes.
it. And if you can go with it that way and not try to figure out, who this is and why this happened, it's a lot easier to integrate, these principles and
Yeah.
to use them. So that's how it happened for me.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Wow. And just to give people an idea of a time frame, when you were sitting with all these bits and pieces of your book and not knowing what to do with it, how long ago was that?
Let's see, probably a couple years ago now, and it took me about a year to write the book.
Okay.
I had another business that I do. In the meantime, I'm a web designer. So I had
Yeah.
that business I was doing, and I probably spent 4 to 5 hours a day, though, really working on this book, getting the
Yes.
information to add to it, so, and doing a lot of research.
Yeah.
So it took about a year, and then I just published it in March, and I made the cover for it. Anyway, it's called A Link, and
Yes.
that's what it looks like. It's on Amazon.
We'll put the link below.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
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 It was
Great.
nice when it was finally born, all from being
Yes.
woken up at night. It led to a book. So I
Wow.
guess I fulfilled my agreement then of what I originally was supposed to do, was write a book, but at that time I thought I was giving up, but I'm glad it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so happy you finished it as well.
Yeah,
And
thanks.
really, what I really love about this sharing is the way you did it, because you just shared, like, just in between telling your story, that you also have another job, which I really love, because what that shows you, and your mother, you're running a
Yeah.
family, all of that, so you have a full life. But you took the time to do that, even though you didn't know where it was going to go. And that is very much a foundational principle, it seems, in the lives of those who are channeling. At least I can speak for
Mhm.
myself, that we
Exactly.
learned how to be okay with not knowing where something will go. And is that something you feel you practiced a lot in your own life?
Yeah, you're 100% right about that. Yeah. I mean, that's yes. For the longest time I felt like I had a dual life, a double life.
Yeah.
I had my 3D job that I had to maintain, and clients and who don't know anything about the fact that I channel and have extraterrestrial contact. I wouldn't really have a need to bring that up with them, but all they have to do is Google my name now, and they
Right.
can see, I have a book that's an unusual topic, and different interviews here and there and things that are out there now. And I have a radio show that me and my husband put on Mondays called, it's on Lightwaves Radio, called Mondays with Melody, where I actually channel Melody publicly. So I had to deal with kind of integrating all of this. Coming out and sharing this truth was so important to me, though, that I couldn't. It was. It just, even though it was scary and it was uncomfortable, and I worried about what people would think, I knew that it was selfish of me not to share it, and that was worse for me, not being in my truth,
Yeah.
than dealing with a little bit of fear. So I
Oh,
said, I got to let go of the fear. I can still do my other job and build websites and all that, and I don't push this on anyone, down anyone's throat. I'm okay now with living a double life, but for a while it was hard, to
yes.
because I had the fear about coming forward, which a lot of us do. You probably had that experience also.
Yes, all the same.
Yeah.
And I just, at the point where, so another channel actually helped me embrace my own awareness of my guides. Because Arjun, and you're right, they don't use names in those higher dimensions, but there is a symbolic, or in some cases, you can ask for a symbolic translation of their energy frequency, and it may
Mm.
translate into sound.
Oh.
And then for me, my guide of the YahYel, he eventually suggested the name Arjun, and then he also said, if you don't like it, we'll pick something else. But this is what comes closest right now, that
Oh.
kind of embraces the energy that I represent. And when I googled it, it meant it's from Sanskrit, and it means peacock. And I didn't get it, but
Oh.
he showed me in a download later, and I'm still learning the whole energy
Huh.
frequency of his name and what it means, and his being. Of course, we're still getting to know each other more and more, and their world, um, which is so drastically different from ours in high frequency.
Yeah.
But the peacock it has this like unfolding. It's part of the unfolding, and as you know, it
Mm.
has all the eyes on the tail,
Mm.
and it's like the whole color spectrum is in it, and it has the overview. So there's this like beautiful unfolding of
Yeah.
receiving the overview, and I'm like, wow.
Oh,
So
wow.
I like the name a
Interesting.
lot, and
Wow.
actually the fact that I was like, Arjun was my first response.
Wow. That's
Kind
so
of,
cool.
yeah, you know how you know it's not you when you're actually surprised about what's coming through,
Yeah.
like you would have never thought of that yourself. And
Yeah.
I really had to
Wow.
google it to get the bigger picture and to be like, yeah, it's actually pretty, it's a good name.
Wow. That's fascinating. Well, and then after I met you and you told me his name was Aryun, I had just had an experience with the crow that I
Yes.
found, and my friend said you should name him Wayun, and it almost sounded like the name that you had from your guide. And this crow was so magical in my life. I mean, I have a story right there that in fact, that's going to be another book, is
Wow,
what
really?
yeah, what I learned from that crow is
Awesome.
unbelievable.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, so it's funny because when you said that it had to do with like a peacock,
Yeah.
and here's this crow that definitely showed me multidimensional layers of life, and to the point where, I mean, we had telepathic communication that I never thought could be possible with another species or,
Yeah.
anything. And so fascinating. I mean, messengers can come to us in many forms.
Oh man,
Doesn't necessarily
yes.
have to be a human being, or it can
No.
be an extraterrestrial, or it can be, through an animal that we connect with. And
Yes.
the universe is like always talking to us. It's
Yes.
just, how open are we in our ability to perceive that communication is what it is. And I
Yeah.
think with us, we've just sort of opened a gateway and a portal to be able to receive communication, in these different ways. So
Yes.
anybody can do it is the thing. It's
Yes.
just it's just learning how to open that doorway is what it is.
Yeah, to remember how to allow it, because we're basically, or we have been very long. I think this is shifting now already, of course, but we've been trained out of it as a kid to trust our intuition. And
Exactly.
but just by adopting the belief systems from our parents and society and school and on,
Mm-hmm.
we were trained out of our original nature, which is a
Mm-hmm.
very tuned in and tapped in beingness
Oh
that
yeah.
we naturally are. I really believe that.
Oh yeah, I mean children are pretending all the time, they're they're so in their fantasy world
Yes.
that they don't know the difference between, a conversation with mom and dad and a conversation with their imaginary friends
Uh-huh.
until somebody says to them, "Well, that's imaginary," or
Yeah.
that didn't really happen. They start to try to tell these little children these things, but when we first come here on this planet, we're open to all of it, and we are receiving multidimensional communication all the time, but we
All the
do
time. Yeah.
shut it down,
And
we're
the
taught to shut it down.
hilarious thing while you're sharing this, because like you just said, the child doesn't know the difference between imaginary whatever and
Mm-hmm.
reality.
Yeah.
And Arjun is making these jokes, in the group Q&A and stuff, where he's like, oh, and now you have invented or re-allowed back into your memory information that is more based on the principles of the art of allowing, or you have this movie, The Secret, or something like that. So it's coming back for a bigger audience. And we are reintroducing the power of imagination to adults. And
Oh, good.
that's what's
Yeah.
happening right now. That's actually what's happening with The
Yeah.
Secret. Because you're
Mm.
gonna have to step out of your completely rational, the way you were trained, in
Mm-hmm.
order to fully embrace that the power of the heart and the inner knowing is what's actually creating, and
Mm-hmm.
you propel that by emotion, as I understand it,
Mm-hmm.
or emotion
Yeah,
by trust in what you believe, what you prefer to believe.
yeah. I mean, all of us are existing in that fourth dimension all the time, which is this timeless place where we co-create everything.
Yes.
Whenever we even think, what am I going to make for dinner tonight, for example, we're
Hmm.
already going into our mind and imagining ourselves, going into the kitchen and preparing the food, or we're going to the store to get it together. We start to already imagine. That's what we call it. It's like we think it's pretend, but what we're doing is we're tapping into that space of timelessness
Yeah.
where there's infinite amounts of timelines, and then we start to choose those timelines to make them more materialized here. We crystallize it, but it always has to start. Everything has to start from our thoughts first.
Yes, exactly.
So we're all these co-creator beings, and we don't realize it and how powerful we are. We just
No.
take it for granted and say, well, that's just imaginary, or
Yeah.
but it's the most powerful thing we have is our ability to not do everything in 3D, but to do something outside of it in the fourth dimension and beyond by using our mind
Yeah.
to start to shape what we really want. And so everybody does this, but they don't realize that
Yeah.
they're conscious of it so much, you
And
know?
once you start to see that better, it's so hilarious to realize that we're so powerful. And look what we're, we
Mm.
have trained ourselves so much in seeing everything that could go wrong. Like, this is the
Yes.
fun. It's
Yeah.
incredibly funny at some point where somebody tells somebody else a story like, I'm gonna go on a holiday to there and there, and maybe it's an adventurous country, let's call it that. And
Hmm.
then, 9 out of 10 they'll get a response like, oh, but I heard this and that happens to that person in that country, or have you seen the
Mm.
news that and that happens in that. So everybody has this like huge hard drive that's full with terror stories
Yes,
of
exactly.
everything that could go wrong. And
Yes.
the funny thing is, my guys and me, we love to play games, and there's this definite game to just take a scenario that looks like a cliche bad situation from the old paradigm way of labeling, and find at least 10 pluses on the
Good
subject.
idea. Good
And
idea.
it almost makes your brain itch in the beginning. You're like, that's not possible. But with a lot of imagination, you'll find some
Right.
pluses.
Yes, that's the thing is just, really tapping into that imagination and infinite possibilities. I
Yeah,
mean, we forget how many infinitely creative solutions there are to every problem.
yeah,
We think we hit a roadblock sometimes, but it's just that we didn't see beyond that
yeah,
roadblock.
yeah,
And once you can like just start drawing from your imagination, you can solve any problem.
yeah.
You can start, manifesting things that you want into your life instead of resisting things. And
Yes, yeah,
but it's just about being conscious of it because
yeah.
I mean we're all doing this all the time, but sometimes we don't realize we're kind of blocking things, when
No,
we are.
exactly. Yeah. I kind of like when I'm running late for an appointment. Not really like, but I found a way to respond to it, to make it more something that I can flow with. Because I used to go really into resistance and get stressed out, when I'm running late. And
Hmm.
now I'm more like, whenever I run late, something is saving my life.
Wow, right.
Somehow I'm saving my life, because if I would
Yeah.
have left 10 minutes earlier by bike in Amsterdam, blah blah blah, then this and this could have happened. I'm not making
Mhm.
that a big thing. I'm just thinking, I'm right where I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I
Mhm.
don't even need
Yeah.
the drama story anymore, or the saving my life excuse. It just makes me smile right now. I'm just being alive, being late, and being fine with that. And
Right, right.
I practice these kind of making peace on the spot with a challenge. Um,
Yeah,
and I
that's perfect.
really, really like doing that. And then the funny thing is, you don't feel yourself that cornered at all anymore. It doesn't happen
Right.
anymore.
Exactly. I mean, you can accept being in a traffic jam, for the
Yeah,
same reasons, or
yeah,
just that, sometimes I've even had that experience where I'm delayed somewhere, but if I wasn't delayed to where I, think I should have been, I wouldn't have ran into that person that I saw in the grocery store who at the same
Exactly.
time we were there at the same time and we needed to connect. So
Yes.
sometimes it's things like that that when you put the pieces together, you can kind of see, oh, that happened for a reason, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. But you're also free, of course, to not see that, and then you will only get the shadow side. But that's fine too, you
Right.
know?
That's true. Yeah. You kind of have to be open once again,
Yeah.
to be able to perceive that vibration and what the other things are that are happening in your life. Because there's
Yeah.
always other pieces. And when you broaden that awareness, you're like, wow, everything's so perfectly orchestrated and
Yeah.
synchronistic,
Yeah.
and when you start to see those synchronicities, they're everywhere.
That's why the logo for my design for awareness, the name of my work or the business, it's a hummingbird that actually came to me through experiences in Sedona, where there are hummingbirds there. And
Uh-huh.
at some point, I went through an inner transformation, and after that, for a few days, hummingbirds were just like seeking me out. They were like going after me almost. I was like, what are they?
Wow.
And then I was really touched by that and very moved by it. And I suddenly knew that this needs to be my logo. So
Oh,
I made it into a logo for my own
wow.
business. And then the funny thing is, it's a bird. What you just said about overview,
Mm-hmm.
it's a bird again. So you have your
Oh.
crow, you have the peacock, you have the hummingbird.
Oh,
And every
yeah.
time, what I really like about the hummingbird personally is because it's the only bird that can go forward, backward, in all directions, and even stand still.
Oh,
It's
huh.
like it's like the higher mind. That's how I've understood it by now. As Arjun has sent me the hummingbird images very often for explanation as to
Wow.
how the soul or the higher self kind of communicates with us through
Uh-huh.
intuition and and excitement. Um, but it's also the overviewer, and once you can tap into that aligned overview part of you, the
Mm-hmm.
hummingbird part or whatever you want to call it, the bird part, then
Mm-hmm.
with the hummingbird you can even fly backward, and that means to me symbolically you can review the past with new eyes.
Hmm.
So what we call backwards, rewrite your
Mm-hmm.
past in a sense.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I can't believe you're saying that right now. Another thing that we're so much alike. A lot of
Yeah.
times we come together and we have the same information, and I didn't even know
Oh,
that
tell
because
me, tell
there's
me.
well, yeah, there's like this chapter in my book about the timelessness. You are timeless and eternal. The whole thing about time and living in linear time here is it's sort of like this trap. It's to kind of almost trick us into
Oh
into
yeah.
realizing that we are getting us away from our multidimensional selves. And when you mention that about healing or changing the past, Melody, my guide, actually taught me um, that the past is really only what we perceive in the now. It's what we
Yes.
think happened in the past because there's no way to actually go to that point and say, "Oh, there it is." It's it's a perception
Yeah.
always of what
Mhm.
we believe happened. So
Mhm.
therefore, if it's just a perception, we can actually change our perception of what really happened. We can
Yeah.
actually go there. We can reimagine a different past that we
Yes.
feel that we want instead of the other one,
Yes.
and we can actually change our past timelines and
Yes.
start to believe in a different past. And when we do that, we're literally changing our timelines, and we can be in the now and have a totally different future from that point on because we've
Yeah.
healed, we've changed it to where it aligns more with what we want now instead of
Exactly.
just accepting a past we don't like. I
Exactly.
mean, everybody has traumas and things they don't like.
Yeah.
So why not change how you want it to look in your past, and then it changes your whole vibration when you can do that, because so
Yeah.
many people are stopped from their past. They say, well, I can't do this because I've never been good at whatever it is,
Yeah.
because in the past, I've got failing grades in math, so therefore I must be
Yeah.
terrible at accounting, and therefore I can't get a job that we start to have these programs
Yeah.
that stop us from our greatest potential because we believe something in the past is holding us back.
Mhm.
So my guides taught me how to literally reimagine the past that
Yeah.
I prefer and shape the present moment more the way I want it. And from there, we can do anything. There's no blocks anymore. And when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's the same information that I was taught, and I put it in my book.
Surprise,
So,
surprise. So
yeah,
we're both speaking to these hybrids and we have the same information. Oh my god.
exactly.
They're really,
Yeah,
really agreeing. It's amazing. I love how
yeah.
this is how at some point when I discovered, because I didn't know you could do channeling, like up until I was 28, 29. And that's when I, around and about, discovered Seth, the books of Seth.
Oh,
And I
mm-hmm.
just cried. I was really moved that I found a book with a person in it that actually shared the same information that I thought I had to keep a secret my whole life.
Wow, how
Because
neat.
I was walking around with it and thinking like, yeah, what good does this do like for me other than of course it benefits me, the information, I can use it, but it's weird that not everybody else, like it just felt weird, like I was alone in it like you were, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I chose to experience that experience. And I learned so much beautiful things from that. But when I discovered that book, I was like, wow, you can actually decide to share this stuff.
Right. Right. Wow.
And I was full of awe with that. And yeah, but it still was a huge journey for me to do what I do now, because I still didn't know that I was going to do this at all. And neither did you, right?
Not at all.
It's
Yeah.
so
It just
funny.
things fall into place as they're, yeah, and unexpectedly,
Yeah,
like I have a friend who happens to be have a radio show, and she just mentioned to us, you and your husband should have your own show. If you could have your own show of anything you wanted to say, what would you do it on? And I go, I don't know, let me ask Melody, because I always ask Melody to guide me with different things. And she's like, well, just keep asking me questions, I'll come through on your show. And so
great.
pretty soon I just started to channel her, not because she tried to force me into doing something, or it just was like this unfolding that
Yeah,
happened. And I thought,
yeah,
well, she's helping me and all my family members and close friends. Why can't I share her then with the bigger audience? So I
exactly.
felt like it was the right thing to do. And it's
And you
amazing,
just
isn't
did
it?
it. Oh
Yeah.
man, it must have been so exciting.
Yeah, but again, there's a layer of fear too, like we
Yeah,
talked about before, because you have to let go of the worries of the ego, like, are people going to think I'm crazy? What about the people who don't even know I channel, that find out? What are
yeah,
they going to think? But we can't worry about those thoughts, that negative thoughts like that, because we have to be our true authentic self,
yeah,
and it does benefit everyone when we
yeah,
do that, because then they give themselves permission to also be in their true authentic self when
yeah.
they see you doing it. So we just can't listen to that negative ego, that
No,
uh, tries to interfere. That's how I see it now. Is it's just, just the interference that, okay,
yeah.
well,
It's just
it'll
old
be
stuff
okay.
that still wants to be
Yeah,
integrated. And
yeah,
yeah, I do definitely look at it. Also, when I did those like past rewritings, I definitely look at it. And the emotions do get attention. But you just want to figure out what you started to believe. And I think once you stop writing power into other people's opinion, then you
mm-hmm,
can then you can loosen up from that,
mm-hmm,
and not be so tight and afraid that you have to hold everything in your own hands and that pull the ropes to make it happen.
right.
Then you can really
Yeah,
surrender.
yeah, it's a really important step, I think, for other light workers too, who are afraid to come forward and
Mm-hmm.
share their gifts, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe they also have a professional job that they're worried about,
Uh-huh.
but it doesn't help the world when we repress all of this stuff. It really helps when we just be where we're supposed to be in the moment and follow our heart, and just
Yeah.
and be there to give to other people, no matter how whether they accept it or not. That isn't for us to really judge or determine.
Yeah.
We're just supposed to give our gifts, and the world will. And it's amazing, the amazing people that I've met after I
Yeah.
chose to do that, and the beautiful healings that have happened and connections that have been made. I wouldn't trade it for the world, and I'm glad I didn't listen to the negative fear stuff. you know,
Well, you didn't in this timeline.
right? I know what you mean there.
And I'm happy that I know this version of you. And of course.
Yeah, me too. Oh.
Yeah, oh man, it's such a dazzling thing when you think about it. And it's so nice to also be just focused in one moment at a time, because you would be
I know. Yeah, and
all
that's
over
not
the
always easy when
place.
you're doing what we're doing. It's
But
hard.
on the other hand, it's also very easy to really be yourself. I mean,
Mm.
there's never been a harder and an easier thing at the same time. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, I totally do. You couldn't have said it more perfectly too. Yeah, it's easy in the sense that you don't have to wear masks anymore. You don't have to
Yeah,
hide and have that stress. So
yeah,
there's much freedom in being able to do that for sure.
yeah,
It's just getting past, the fear stuff. Because I know a lot of people right now who are kind of on that teetering point where they want to start their own business, doing light work, but they're too afraid to leave their current job because they feel secure in it, but
yeah,
they're being called to do something else. And so then they feel that entrapment
yeah,
and fear. So that's why I just thought it was important to encourage people
yeah.
to be in their true authentic self because they are shaping the world when they do that.
And to, even if they can, just take it one step at a time. I mean, that's all you can do anyway. All you can do is your best, and not everybody has the belief system that would support a full jump from one day to
Right,
the next. And I
right.
built it up gradually, so I had to take time to ease into the new profession. Or should
Right,
I just
right.
say being myself, and stepping forward with it? I had to overcome some hurdles, definitely, but I'm so happy I did, and that I'm still doing that.
Yeah,
And I can only
yeah,
say
me
to
too.
everybody out there, if you're feeling the call, just do it in one way or another. Even if it's just sharing with one friend that you really trust and speak about
That's
this
a good
a
idea.
little, it might surprise you what you get back from that. It's
Yeah,
it's
that's good
often
advice.
it's
And to
often
be
much
patient with
better.
yourself. Yeah. I
Yes.
like how
Yeah.
you said that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because we don't have to jump in full
No.
head on.
No. It will take you in when it's all good, like, and then
Yeah.
you will start to recognize the flow in that and how much fun it is to share.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And all the synchronicities that happen from that. It's like you just open up kind of this other gateway.
Yes.
It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
It
those
just
people
keeps
that
coming.
only see double numbers. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's happening more and more. I know.
I'm
It's
one. I'm
really
one.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just see a mass awakening happening. I mean, even when my husband went to the doctor recently, I couldn't believe the conversations we were having with the staff there. Um, he commented on the pendant that my husband was wearing, the triage nurse did,
Uh-huh.
and he said, "Oh, that's a lovely pendant you have," and it was a organite piece. And we said that we got it at Contact in the Desert, which is a big gathering of speakers for the subject of UFOs at
Uh-huh.
Contact in the Desert. They have it every year. It's near Palm Springs at
Okay.
Joshua Tree. And we said David Wilcock is there, and I start naming some people. He goes, "I love David Wilcock," and I thought, "Oh boy, if this nurse knows who David Wilcock is, then he understands ufology and the whole thing." And then when we went to see the doctor, the nurse that took him in there asked him if he had the flu shot, and we're like, "Oh no, we don't do the flu shot." We immediately resisted that. And she starts confessing how the flu is she has to sign all these papers that says that she doesn't want to accept the flu shot and all this, and she says she feels like a criminal and she could be in trouble for even like talking about it in that way. So
Wow.
the nurses are even waking up to
Wow.
thinking independently outside of this matrix that is trying to push an agenda. They are all
Yes.
waking up to
Yeah.
this other thing that's not mainstream, but the grassroots groups
Yeah.
that we understand. There's more and more people that are learning about all this, and
Much more than we think. Much more than we
yes,
think.
and so
Yeah.
I love that. I love that that's happening to more and more people. So
Oh, and thank you for sharing that. I hope it gives people, or that these words, I'm sure these words will inspire more people that are watching this now, and maybe it will broaden up a little bit, like the frame
Yeah.
through which a lot of people have been looking at the system, because
Yeah.
you can't tell from someone's face what's going on in there. And yeah, we are waking up, and I feel it too, and it's pretty magical to be around right now. I'm very
Yeah.
grateful for that.
Me too. Me too.
And I'm
Yeah.
so happy I met you in the process.
Oh, me too. We're being led to exactly who we need to be led to, too. I mean, every relationship
Exactly.
is sacred
Yeah.
and has a higher purpose and meaning.
Yeah.
So I cherish all my relationships and meetings with people, and you're wonderful. And you've given me so much validation, for my own channeling
Oh,
life
thank
because
you.
we have such a parallel going on. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been so much fun sharing with you again for this video. So I want to thank you very much for your time again, Kendra. I love
Oh, thank you. It's
you.
my pleasure. I love you too. Thank you, Wieteke.
And all sweet viewers, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. If you like, click like and share. We will put the links below if you want to know more about Kendra's book or about my work with Arjun. And for now, I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for being who you are. And please shine like a star. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.